One question is, can you please demonstrate how to consume distillates? I don't know if we can demonstrate it, but maybe you can talk a little bit about it.
I wish I had some distillate here with me to show you. I don't, but whoever asked that question, there's multiple ways to consume distillate. Distillate is a decarboxylated product. So you would be able to ingest it directly. And you saw the twist Spencer syringe, something that you can click a little bit. Again, the hypodermic needle on there is a larger diameter. So when you twist it, it will be about the diameter. The oil coming out of there will be about the diameter of a grain of rice. So if you do a 0.5 centimeter, something again similar to a grain of rice, you can put that on a spoon, you can put it on a piece of bread and ingest it directly and get the effects. Or you could actually put that onto a dab rig or into a dab device and vaporize it. I would suggest with distillates, that's when you would be doing more of an edible dosing. So start very low, about the size of a grain of rice, and give yourself an hour, hour and a half. What you need to think about with distillate is that the potency of 1 gram of distillate is about 900 milligrams. And to put that in a reference that people can understand, if you were to get a 1 gram joint that was 25% THC, so it says on the outside what the percentage is, a 1 gram joint, that would be about 250 milligrams. All right. So you're thinking almost 4 times stronger gram for gram of distillate to flour when it's a 25% flour.
Yeah, I think a good analogy is, and for people who look at compared to alcohol, it's like the 151 Bacardi of the area. You know, very good, works very well. Be very careful.
Yeah, and to put it even more similar, like you've heard of these guys in the backwoods making moonshine.
Yeah.
Distillate is the moonshine of cannabis. I am actually distilling it the exact same way that they make moonshine. So that white lightning, you got to be very careful, just like you're saying with the Bacardi. Same thing with distillate. If you were to eat a whole gram of it, 900 milligrams is a very large dose.
Yeah, and the reason people do that is it's great for pain management, especially, and sometimes quite a bit with mood. I know that's something that people take a look at. Let's talk about the next question. It says, for sleep, is it more effective to use CBD or THC? You want to take a kick at that? I'll answer it if you want to.
I mean, my personal opinion, and I would love to hear what you have to say, Mark. My personal opinion is that you want to have a little bit of both. They work synergistically together, the way that I see it. So for sleep in general, doing a distillate type of dosing with a little bit of CBD should help. They work together. The CBD would help with the inflammation. The THC will give you a little bit of that, what you're looking for sleep, right? It's just going to make you tired. It might make you a little bit hungry and then tired. So they kind of work together. That's what I would say personally. Yeah.
I think the magic is when you combine, as we talked about the entourage effect, you combine the THC, the CBD, the different cannabinoids and terpenes. CBD will help relax you. And again, will help you get to sleep, but a little bit of THC, a full spectrum, minimum full spectrum THC, which means 0.3% or less, or in the case of using medical cannabis, a low percentage of THC will really help be able to kick in and help you sleep quite a bit. I know that people look at THC, sometimes they vilify it, but really it's going to help a lot with sleep. It's going to help a lot with pain. It's going to help a lot with mood. So don't shy away from it. Just don't jump into it. You know, just use it in moderation.
And on that same point, you know, people are asking about the distillate and CBD THC here. We do offer a similar product to RSO. It's our full spectrum oil. So that will be a little bit, it sounds a little counterintuitive. It's less clean because we have not distilled it. It still does have some plant material, but it has all your terpenes. It has everything you need for the entourage effect in it. So something like a Rick Simpson oil or full spectrum cart that we have, a Twist Spencer cart, would be better for sleep than distillate itself, in my opinion.
Right, I agree with you. Using a 510 cart that has high in concentrated in CBD and a little bit of THC really works really well.
Mark, I would add, thinking about our sleep webinar, I would also add, what is the root cause of needing to get to sleep? And so thinking about sleep in 2 different parts, you need to fall asleep and stay asleep. And there could be different products that you may need to stack on to do that. So just thinking about why you might be having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep and then addressing it that way as well.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, because if if you're not addressing the problem, you're addressing the symptom, you're not going to be able to get the sleep that you really want. And sometimes if it's pain, THC is really a good answer for that.
And I would highly suggest, I can speak for Surterra Wellness. A lot of our salespeople at the storefront are very well trained. I go store to store. David and I just did around the state of Florida road trip, explaining to everybody how to prescribe our products to everybody, to new patients, people that have questions. So Surterra Wellness will be able to give you some feedback at the patient level in the store. I can't speak for all dispensaries, but ask the questions you have to the sales associates that we have on the floor, and they'll do their very best to get you the information that you need to dose you right, or to give you the product that's most in line with what your ailment is.
And I think very important, Surterra Wellness offers consultations.
Yes.
It's one of the best things you can do, whether you have been a patient for a long time or you're brand new to cannabis. Go get a consultation. You'll get a lot from it. I know I used the cannabis for almost 2 years before I did my first consultation, and I really regretted not doing it earlier. Please go and I think you also. I know we're going to get off the subject of concentrates for a second, but Surterra Wellness has an excellent sleep product called Dream, and it's really, really good for really helping people sleep. And so I think that's something to really pay attention to as well. So next question: how many hits are there in a half gram or whole gram? Isaac, that's right up your alley, isn't it?
I mean, I answered this question 1,000 times, and I'll answer it again. It's depends. Do you have Snoop Dogg taking a hit, or is it my grandma taking a hit? Right.
Yeah.
Whenever people say a hit, it's a very subjective thing, right? I don't know if anybody knows who Snoop Dogg is, but someone that just keeps hitting and hitting, and can smoke a whole joint in 2 hits. That's very different. What we consider a hit is about a 1.5 to 2 second pull on a vape cart, right? And if you're doing that, let's say 2 seconds, you should be able to get 50 to 75 hits out of a half gram vape cart. Now it's going to be a totally different thing if you're doing a dab on a dab rig. I think the dab rig, in my personal opinion, makes you have to do a bigger hit because you're consuming it all at one time, right? So you're taking a grain of rice size hit with a dab rig, and that would be almost 1/10 of a gram, I would say, maybe slightly less in weight, but you have to hit it all at one time to consume that. So it's hard to say exact number of hits, but in a half gram vape cart in the Galileo format, live rosin, right? I would expect somewhere between 50 and 75 hits from that if you're doing a 2 second hit.
Yeah, good question. How many days should each indica syringe last if I use it only before sleep?
So again, very subjective, right? When people are using a syringe, there's some people that are using it for cancer treatment. And I know people that are using 1 gram 3 times a day. So they're taking 3 grams a day. That is for very high end pain management, right? So that's whenever you're in stage 4 cancer, and it's more of a conditioning people to be comfortable. So very sedative. Whenever we're just using one before sleep, if it's for sleep, it could last you, one syringe would last you anywhere from 1 week if you're using a heavy amount, to I would say almost 2 to 3 weeks if you're doing that grain of rice size.
Yeah, that grain of rice size really will give you a couple of weeks of use that's out there. Next question is a good one. It says, I am the worst math student ever. Is there a simple way to know how to dose for edibles? I agree with this question. What I've always tried to do, and maybe you can help me, Isaac and David and Forrest, I always recommend that you take the edible and cut it into a quarter. So if you have a square of chocolate, take a quarter of that square, or you have a chewable, take a quarter of it, and that's usually a good place to start. Trying to figure out all the math sometimes gets hard, and especially with an edible, trying to figure out how to cut it up is important. But I just recommend starting with a quarter of it, use it for a day or two, and then if you're comfortable with that, whether you see effects or not, go to maybe a half of that edible. Your thoughts on it?
Well, what I've been seeing more and more of is each individual, especially with the gummies, right?
Yeah.
The gummies are one of our #1 selling edibles, but they're per gummy. So each gummy itself would be 5 milligrams. You don't have to do any math. 2 gummies, well, I guess you do have to do math. 5 and 5 is 10, right? You would just be adding 5 each time.
Sure.
But really, we're trying to make it as easy as possible. Where it gets difficult with math is our chocolate bars, right? There's 100 milligrams in the whole thing, but we do make it easy for you to break, so you don't have to cut anything. And then you can break apart each piece and make each piece a 100 milligram bar. I believe it breaks down to a 5 milligram piece, the little squares, each one.
Yeah, I
So-
think they break in half to 2.5 milligrams too.
Yeah, and then you can make them as small as you want. For edibles, if you've never done edibles, I like to start with about a 5 milligram dosage. So find an edible that is marked 5 milligram per piece, or you would have to do some math on the chocolate bar to figure out where that 5 milligram is. Most people that are doing edibles, unless you're using them all the time, you go for that. Most of the time I use about 10 milligrams. I can feel something. If I'm really trying to tranquilize myself, I'll do 50, and that will really put me on the couch for a while. I don't suggest most people use that. I've seen people go as high as, no joke, 1,000 milligrams at a time. Again, that's for very high in pain management, like very significant.
Yeah, but I think starting your advice of starting with the smallest square, whether that's an edible or chocolate, or whether it's a chewable or whatever, start with that, maybe even cut that in half. That's a good place to start, because what you want to do is you want to figure out what your tolerance is to THC. And some people are very sensitive to it. My wife is, for example.
Yeah.
I'm not.
And be cognizant of what it says on the packaging, because there are many edibles now that are quick onset, right? So you may get the effect in 10, 15 minutes if it's a quick onset formulation. But without that quick onset being on the package itself, it's going to take an hour to, I say, 2 hours. It depends on each individual person's metabolism, number one, but also what did you eat? Did you just eat something before that? And are you digesting it? So there is some time delay. So be careful.
Right. Next question is, I've been trying unsuccessfully to make my own topical using a concentrate for my increasing arthritic hands. Any advice? I think that's an interesting, I'll let you take that one. I also think that making topicals are a bit of a challenge. I gave it up. I bought product right from the store itself.
To tell you the truth, Mark, I don't have any trouble making topicals, but it is my job. So I did formulate all the topicals that we're using. We have a balm that everybody loves and raves about, but also the lotions. What I find most of the time, and I'm just being strictly honest here, is that through the topical, it's hard to really notice if you're getting an effect. And with topicals and making your own topicals, one thing that people forget to do is add a substance that will help pull the cannabinoids into your skin, right? So you have to get through your dermis to actually get to where some of these cannabinoid receptors are. You do have THC receptors in your skin, but you have to get through your skin to get to that. So a lot of times when I'm making topicals, I add substance like emu oil, right? It's going to help pull in the oil through your skin to make that work. Also, menthol helps a lot, and it gives a little bit of that Bengay or that menthol tingling sensation that actually helps. In my personal opinion, again, and no scientific study, it actually helps exacerbate the THC effect.
Good point. Good point. Good advice, sir. Next question. Is there anything you can use for dementia?
I am not a doctor. I can't say specifically if there is or not that's going to work for dementia. My own personal experience, it makes me forget things more a lot of the times whenever I'm taking heavy doses. So I don't know how to answer that. Anybody else that has information, please jump in.
I took some courses. I got a degree in cannabis, being a cannabis practitioner from Florida Atlantic University. And as part of the training, we talked a little bit about this. There is no cure for dementia, both from pharma or a cannabis standpoint. You can slow it down. And dementia is really, really important. Now, what's a good product to look for? Well, pinene is a terpene that's really good for restoring memory, short-term memory. So looking for a product that has pine in it would be very important to really help a little bit with that. I'd also say stick to the high CBD, low THC side, because again, what that also does is help be able to get people to relax. It does, you are going to need some THC to address the dementia. And again, if you have a product that has the pinene in it, will help quite a bit. I hope that helps a little bit there. I'd have to look at the products from Surterra that have the pinene in it, but I think that's kind of the advice that I would give in that area. Forrest and David, any comments?
No, I agree. Go with the terpene, find the terpene, and look for strains that have that terpene in it for sure.
Right. The one thing about cannabis is if you follow the terpenes, you look at the terpenes, they'll tell you the profile of what it can do. That's where you can't go wrong. A lot of folks that tell me that I've used cannabis and it doesn't work, and I look at the terpene profile versus the condition they're trying to address, they don't match. But I find that when they do match, that's when you see the magic. So again, look at something that has the pinene in it. What's the best strain for neuralgic pain? This is a pain that's very sharp. It hurts. It comes on very quickly. I think pain is pain. And I think any particular product that addresses pain from the standpoint of a cannabis product will help quite a bit. Isaac, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, I know what my suggestion is. It wouldn't be a specific strain. It would be a type of concentrate if you're looking for that pain. There may be specific strains. You would have to do, each person's individual body chemistry is different. You would have to do some research with the strains and most likely grow it yourself so you have the exact conditions. There is seasonality in Florida between winter and summer, so you will see that in some of the people that are doing greenhouse grows. In my personal opinion, I think something like a RSO, Rick Simpson oil,
yes,
or FXO. I think that's how we sell it down in Florida. Is called FXO.
Yeah.
We have we have no affiliation with Rick Simpson. He was just the guy that first discovered how to make this oil. So I see also in the Q&A, is Rick Simpson oil considered a concentrate? Well, Rick Simpson oil is considered a concentrate because I'm concentrating a large amount of cannabis down to an oil. It is an unrefined oil. So I have decarboxylated it and it does have all the terpenes, but it does have plant material. That's why it's very dark. And there is some plant material. There are fats. There are some lipids, but there is everything that's beneficial from the cannabis plant in that. And do know RSO, FECO, which is called FECO. That's another name of the same product. FXO, full extracted oil, they're all the exact same product. We don't make actual Rick Simpson oil because Rick Simpson actually used naphtha whenever he was doing his extraction, which we found out it's probably not the cleanest way to do it. I can make a lot cleaner product for everybody with the same pharmaceutical benefits.
Sure. Now, Rick did two things that were great. He discovered it and he contributed it to the world, and he did it over 20 years ago. Yeah. So obviously you all have come up with better ways of refining it, making it better. But I'm a big fan of Rick Simpson oil, especially for pain. And
it still works. It still works very, very well. And I think that what Rick Simpson brought to everybody, I mean, I've helped not only treat, but cure some forms of cancer with Rick Simpson oil, heavy use of it. And it's very beneficial.
Yeah, he's got a lot of testimonials to that effect. So it's kind of interesting. Like I said, I'm a big fan. Next question, trying to cut back on flour. What is the best way to make the switch to concentrates? One big concern is the predictability of outcomes / effects. Isaac, I think this is right in your ballpark.
Yeah, so again, our 510 vape carts are going to be their easiest, most effective, most discreet, and looking for something that's predictable. Well, you have to do a little bit of homework to figure out how many hits it's going to take to get you where you need to be. But once you figure that out, it's going to be reproducible again and again. All right. The only thing that I would say to look out for is the strength on the side of the medication that you're getting. It's going to tell you how strong it is. With our solventless products, we take the product exactly how it is. We're not adding things or subtracting things. It is what it is. So the strains may have a little bit of variance in strength. Just do look at that because if you're getting something that's a heavy hitter at 85%, that's going to have a drastically different effect than something that's at a 65 and may have a lot more terpenes and a more flavor, right? So you're going to have to do your own homework there and do a little bit of math. I know it's hard. Let's get a calculator and you can do the math and figure out how many milligrams you are ingesting.
Right. Good point. What are some of the long-term effects to be aware of when using concentrates? Thanks. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that people are concerned about putting anything into their lungs. And of course, with all the bad press that vape cartridges got, it only just exacerbated that problem. Your thoughts on it, Isaac?
Yeah, so the reason that concentrate the vape cart, we call it Vapegate in the industry here, 2018, whenever people started adding vitamin E acetate to the distillates. It's an oil that looks similar, has a lot of negative effects. The good thing about our concentrates, anything that you buy at Surterra Wellness or any dispensary in Florida, for a matter of fact, is tested to see if it has vitamin E in it. It's pretty much ubiquitous nationwide now that we're testing for that. But long-term effects from concentrates, if you're getting a regular concentrate on the white market, so at a medical provider, it's going to be clean and there should be no long-term effects. What I have heard is some throat irritation from people using too high of heat with their dabs, right? So if they are using a dab rig, they might not have an e-nail where they can keep track of the exact temperature. They might be using a torch, and that when they're doing dabs that are too hot, it will irritate your throat and lungs because it is very hot vapor that you're inhaling there.
And I think some people, I know that when you take a look at using a vape pen, you have the blue, the green, the red, or in the case of the Puffco, it's the blue, green, red, and white. What's interesting is that the higher temperatures, they may give you a little more smoke, but they don't taste as well. They give you a little irritability, and candidly, you don't get as many terpenes. I find that the blues and the greens work a lot better. Your thoughts on that?
I think the green is where you should start. And if your concentrate will vaporize at that, see what effect. You're going to get a slightly different head high because you're getting a lot more of those terpenes, right? As you go to a blue, personally, I use the blue, right, whenever I'm taking a hit on a vape cart like that, using the float battery, right? I like the equal amount of taste and vaporization of the THC in there.
Sure.
I think that works well for me. Again, I can't speak for everybody. There is a little bit of trial and error that goes along with this. So play around with your devices, try the different temperatures, see which one is more flavorful and what gives you the effect that you like, and stick with it. Because I can't speak for everybody. Not everybody has the same flavor palette as I do.
Sure. And when we talk about you talk about when you're actually setting the temperature, when you're clicking on it, and you'll see, like I said, you see the blue, the green, the red, the whites potentially, or in the case of the actual cartridge itself, you'll see 1, 2, or 3 dots on it. And so you're going to start with the .1 or .2, or in your case, you're talking about starting with the greens and the blues. Start at that level. I think you'll start. That's a good place.
Start with the lower temperature and work your way up. Because if you're too low and you're not combusting anything, you'll actually see oil inside your vaporizer, right? And you can always just turn up the heat and then you'll vaporize it. So it depends on how much you're putting into your vaporizer and the heat. Not all of them are calibrated exactly the same. I know they should be, but in reality, I find there's a little bit of variance between devices. So you just have to do a little trial and make sure that you are keeping things consistent as you can on your side.
Yeah. Okay, Isaac, here's your math question of the day. What would the dose equivalent to something like 1 gram of concentrate to 1 gram of flour? How much flour is needed to find the same relief as with extracts?
Okay, so 1 gram of ground flour. Let's start with that. Our ground flour, let's pick some easy numbers. Let's say it's 20%, right? 20% is what you see on the C of A that you receive. 1 gram of that flour should have 200 milligrams in it. All right, that's what the math would say. So 200 milligrams in that 1 gram of ground flour. How much would you need for concentrates to find the same relief? So 1 gram of concentrate, if you're using something like our live rosin, that's going to be, David, jump in here. I think it's probably going to be around the 70% level. You tell me what you've been seeing.
With our live rosin, we see pretty much anywhere between 65 to 75. Some of these newer strains, as Galileo stuff, I've seen in the 80s. So be aware of that as well. Yep.
All right. So let's pick another easy number. Since we did 20, let's pick 80. right? So if you pick one of our new higher end Galileo products, it's going to be 80%. That means 1 gram of that concentrate will have 800 milligrams, right? So to get the same amount as 1 gram of flour, you're going to need 1/4 of that. So you would need a 1/4 of a gram of our live rosin concentrate to equal 1 gram of flour that is 20%.
Good. You went through math very quickly. Did a good job.
Thanks.
Okay. One good question. Why doesn't Surterra offer more live concentrate?
I'll tell you, and this is just the facts. We can't grow enough weed.
That's a good point.
Bottom line. Yeah. We have to fill a lot of buckets. So we grow our material the best we can. We grow as much as we can. And we try to fill buckets. This is going to whole flour. This is going to ground flour. This is going to joints. This is going to be extracted to make edibles. We make a lot of different SKUs, right? And unfortunately, it all comes down to the cultivation. And if we can't grow anymore, we can't make more live concentrates. And that's why I was talking about our hydrocarbons coming on, and I see this in the chat, the Q&A. When is live resin going to be available? Well, I need to be able to, we're upping our scale of grow for our cultivation. And as soon as I have more product coming in, then I will be able to weigh the advantages of that, right? Now I have enough to fill the bucket for whole flour because people like smoking flour, myself included, right? But now I have excess live flour and I can use it for hydrocarbon extraction and bring on our live rosins, our live batters, a lot of the hydrocarbon products that we need. But frankly, it comes down to we just don't have enough product right now.
Right. Well, good and bad news. I mean, the good news is the demand is there that you can't grow enough. And by the way, this isn't something where you can just turn a switch and produce more product. You have to grow it. So you have to plant it, grow it,
and trust me, it's in the works. We've identified that we need that. And once we make a decision, we put plants in the ground or we get a new grow. Yeah. From that time, it's going to take at least 6 months for us to get even a fresh product, probably 7 or 8 months if we are extracting it and making products out of it to get it to store.
Good, but you're heading in that direction. That's the good news.
We are all over it.
Good. We skipped the question I'm going to bring up. What is the cost of a permit card in regular use? I suspect what they mean by that is what's the cost of a medical marijuana card? And I think that really depends on the state. There's really 2 costs that are associated with it. One is the actual card cost of the state itself. So for example, here in the state of Florida, they charge you $75 to apply for a state card. I know in Mississippi, that's $25. In other states, they're anywhere between $25 and $100. I think in Nevada, I think it was $135 starting off. I don't know where it's at right now. So it really depends. The actual card itself is one piece. But in order to get that card, you need to have a doctor. In a medical cannabis situation, you need to have a doctor actually certify for the state itself that you have a medical condition. And that requires a doctor's visit. And doctor's visits can be expensive. So that cost will be anywhere from $175 to $200 every 6 months, because most of the states are requiring that you see the doctor twice a year. Now, why they do that, I haven't quite figured that out yet. I know there's a lot of political reasons why, but I do think it's because they want to make sure the patient's getting the right amount of care. So it would cost you, if you use, for example, $200 as a measure, times 2, that's $400 plus the $75 for the card. It'll run you probably north of $450 and up, but could be as much as $500 a year for the cost of that card.
And we are very well aware that there is a cost on the patient to go see the doctor. So not only speaking for Surterra Wellness, but a lot of the medical marijuana providers, especially in Florida, are offering incentives to get that medical card. Right. And then we'll, on your first trip, we'll give you 75%, 50% off, right? To try to absorb some of that cost that the patient's taking on with getting that.
Right. So what they're doing is they're giving you the discounts to cover the card to make it easier for you to get into it. And that's a good point. I know that the dispensaries have been very sensitive to that and really provided the discounts, especially for new users, to be able to help that. And sometimes if you re-up for the card, they have some discounts associated with that. So
I would say do some research too, because you're starting to find a lot of doctors, at least down here in Florida, that are really lowering their prices from what they used to be. So visits that, let's say, used to be $150 to $200, you're now seeing for $99 as well. So definitely get online, do some research, because you can there's ways to save within this as
well,
well.
there is, but I think also when you look at the low cost guys, make sure they're around in 6 months to get the card again, because we run into a little bit of that where you get a low cost card that goes from there. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying just find yourself a reputable doctor. I think each of the people that are providing cards go out of their way to try to keep very cost effective. I work with MMTC of Florida that has 25 clinics, and not only do they have they're solid. They provide dosing support. They provide education like these seminars that are here, but also they have a lot of discounts associated with them. For example, for veterans and seniors and that type of thing. So pay attention to the actual discounts they offer as well as the discounts from the dispensary. Okay, next question. Why use citric acid in chews? So bad for the esophagus, can create cancer.
Can't deny what the person's saying here, right? Why do we use citric acid? Because people love it. That's it's a flavor test. People love Sour Patch Kids. They love sour candies in general, and that's why doing a flavor panel, we R&D all of our products. That's one of the reasons is for the sour effect. They put sour sugar, citric acid on the gummies to give that sour taste. In other products, you may see citric acid in it at a small amount, and it's more as a preservative.
Okay. And if you don't like that acidy taste, don't get a lemony type thing. Get something that's more of a.
I mean, go with a chocolate at that point. There's not going to be any citric acid in there. There should not be any, right? And there's plenty of different types of edibles. From my personal experience, the citric acid for the edibles is mostly in the gummies, and those are the sour based gummies. Right. Any of the other products, some of our beverages and stuff, it is for the flavor profile. It's not necessarily added for anything other than palatability.
Yeah, good point. Very interesting question. Will more ratio concentrates be offered? I think right now a lot of concentrates are a bit of a ratio between the THC and CBD and the products that are there. I know I see the percentages on a lot of the products.
So it's kind of give and take. So we make a lot of, at Surterra Wellness, we are the #1 dispenser of CBD in the state. And I think it is because of our ratio products, right? Most of what we grow, however, is not specifically a ratio product. So our higher end concentrates like our Galileo will not actually, you will not see a ratio of CBD in there because it is strain specific, right? There's only one strain that we grow. It's called Auto. That is a CBD THC flower. And unfortunately, we're not using that to make our live Galileo products, right? So our Surterra Wellness line will continue to have the ratios, but that is a mix. And the way that we're able to make those ratio mixes is by using distillate that's 100% THC. And then we use a special machine to separate out our CBD. And then we can add it back at a 20-to-1 ratio, a 12-to-1 ratio, a 1-to-1, whatever ratio you want. And we try to offer those different ratios for people that are treating different types of ailments. And unfortunately, it does go back to the person that's seeking medical attention to do a little trial and error on their side to find out what works for their specific illness.
Good point. I think we have some other questions that came in during the live questions. Cheryl asked a question. I think we kind of answered this one. Can you explain Rick Simpson oil? Is it a concentrate or distillate, and does it come in different strengths?
So I tried to answer that. I was reading them while we were talking. So I tried to answer that. Does it come in different strengths? It will come in different strengths, but normally between the 75 and 85% level. So again, it's coming from a whole plant extract. I said that it's usually referred to as RSO, Rick Simpson oil. The other acronym would be FXO, full extracted oil, and then FECO, that's full extracted cannabis oil. So really what we're taking a full dried plant and extracting everything we can out of it and then evaporating off of all of the solvent. So
Mhm.
whatever that starting material had in it, that's pretty much the strength that you're going to get. That's why we do have a little bit of variability in there.
Good point. Is RSO considered a concentrate? I think you answered that question is yes.
It 100% is. Think about the term concentrate. We're taking a bunch of stuff and we're making it smaller and keeping the good stuff. So it is considered a concentrate. It's not considered a high-end concentrate, which would be a refined concentrate or a selectively extracted concentrate.
Right. Anonymous asked a great question. What concentrates are best used with a PAX3? I know the PAX3 is a dry herb, but it also has a concentrate insert that you can put into it. I'm not a PAX3 expert. What's your thoughts about that? Do you know anything about this, Isaac?
So I do. I know all of the devices, and the PAX3, what you're looking for is a concentrate that's going to be easy usable, right? The usability is easy. And that to me is a rosin in general. It's kind of like a Play-Doh, and you can pick it off. It doesn't stick to your hands. It doesn't stick to your table as much as other concentrates. Things like a crumble would be good for a PAX3. An oil from a Dablicator would be good for a PAX3. What would not be good for a PAX3 is you can use the dry flower in there. You could probably use bubble hash very good in there. I don't encourage using something like a shatter in a PAX3. It'll take a while to actually, if you put a big chunk in there, to actually vaporize it all, and you might get a puddle in the bottom of your device. And if you leave it on and then put it in your pocket and then you didn't vaporize all your oil, you might get some spillage. So most concentrates should work in there, even your bubble hashes. Just start with a small amount and make sure that you're using it all, like vaporizing it all before you put it back into your pocket.
Right. It's a good idea. Keith asked a question. When is the live resin vapes going to be available? He was going too fast. I could not hear. I think you're talking about, well, two things. One is you were coming out with live rosin vapes, which I think you said is going to be out in a couple of weeks. And then are you going to come out with a live resin vape?
So live rosin available as of today, right? Live rosin vapes, probably 2 weeks because we need the device. Mm-hmm. The specific question, live resin, I'm planning that out for the hydrocarbon right now. We're waiting for the grow to be enlarged so I have material to extract. I would say my best estimate would be about this time next year in Florida. I do have the Galileo launched in PA. I saw another question about PA down there, right? So yeah. PA has all of the same Galileo products. They're not branded Galileo because there's some outside forces working in PA there that I can't work around. So we do have our live bubble hash, our live rosin, and our live rosin vapes, but they have to remain in the float brand right now in PA. They are a very high end, and we are following the same procedures that we're doing in Florida, or will be very shortly, right? So to answer both of these questions, live resin already available in PA and Massachusetts, and our live resin in Florida will be about a year from now.
Yeah. Now the Galileo products in PA are not called Galileo. They're called Float,
but it's the same brand, or it's the same type of product, right? So you can still get it. There's just some weird stuff going on with the state of PA.
Okay, that sounds good. Last couple questions. I enjoy the ratio strains in concentrates, super glue, and flaming cherries. Is there more ratio concentrates available? By the way, I love some of those products like super glue and flaming cherries are great. Your thoughts on it?
David, do you want to take that one real fast?
Yeah. Ratio concentrates, as far as live material of Galileo and stuff like that, not so much, because we don't grow those ratio flowers indoors. But for some of our others, the waxes, shatters, you'll be seeing those. I know we get the material that comes down for those extraction processes. We do have those ratio flowers growing, and we should be seeing more of those.
Probably about anywhere between 3 months to a year, you'll be getting those out the door.
Yeah, and if people like the concentrates that we're making with the ratios that we're doing right now, I think the super glue flaming cherries, that was pretty much a wax, right, David, that was released there?
Yep.
In the forms of wax and shatter, we can start to do a little bit of ratios for our concentrates, but there's one unfortunate thing that happens is that when we're mixing decarboxylated CBD with decarboxylated delta-9, THC and CBD kind of flip-flop with what happens whenever they're activated. So our THC A is a solid in its acidic form. CBD A, its acidic form, is actually an oil. When we decarboxylate, they flip-flop. So I explain that because whenever we're making concentrates like a wax or a shatter, I have to have stability. And when I'm adding CBD, decarbed CBD, to a concentrate, it's actually an oil. So if I add an oil to something that's trying to be a crystal, it'll make kind of a gooey, gross substance. So I have to be very careful with the amount of CBD that I can add to a concentrate like shatter or wax. All right. So that's why you probably don't see them as often, but when we can, we will make those. It's not going to be always a specific ratio though.
Right, right. Great question that Cheryl has. How much can you obtain at a dispensary? And I think a lot of this has to do with, well, really there's the legal limits that Florida puts on how much you can possess. And then of course your doctor has limits on that. Forrest, do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, it definitely varies. There's also forms that you can fill out. It's going to vary by ROA as well. So flower, you're going to have a certain allocation for. The other ROAs, you'll have a certain allocation for. But then again, you can also talk to your doctor. There's a form that you can fill out. So I believe in the state of Florida, I think it's 2.5 ounces every 35 days, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a rolling 30 days.
It's a rolling, right?
Yeah.
And then so what happens is after that period is over, it's gonna basically reset. But for example, I know a lot of people who have got that increased. I know people that we work with that have that up to like 3 and even 4. I think there's even somebody that I know of that has it up at 5.
Yeah, you have to ask your doctor for it, but you can get it increased if you find that, say you're doing pain management, that you're not allowed enough to manage your pain correctly. You ask for more and they will give you a higher allotment.
Now, I should point out, we're going to do a webinar at the end of the month on all the limits and the way the OMMU works. We'll be covering a lot of this. So that'd be a good one to go. It'll be coming out at the end of the month, on about 3 weeks from now. But it also depends on how much your doctor recommends for each of the categories, because your doctor can actually set that limit. And he can, if he sets a low limit, then that could be a problem for you. So I know that you want to know what your limits are. You want to know what you can obtain. And I think the dispensary personnel can help you a little bit with that. There. Okay. Yep. Is there RSO that you can smoke are like that? I don't think you smoke RSO. Is that correct?
So you can smoke anything, or you can vaporize anything, right? And
sure.
You could vape plastic, but it's not the best thing, and I would not encourage it. RSO is one of those things that I would also not encourage. It's not going to be pleasant because there is that plant matter that's left behind, right? Mm-hmm. So something like RSO that you could smoke would be one of our BDT vapes. Mm-hmm. So that would be a botanically derived terp vape. It's distillate mixed with artificial terpenes. We also offer our CDT vape, which is more of a full plant, and that would be similar to your RSO, just a little bit cleaner. All right. So both of those you can vape, CDT and BDT, and that would be as similar as you can get to an RSO that is pleasurable to smoke.
But I think if you take the RSO oil itself, you don't necessarily drop it on some flour and for smoking.
Yeah, RSO is normally an edible.
Right. It's there. Okay. Jessica asked a great question. If you can't grow enough now, what happens when it becomes legal? Well, first of all, it is legal today. Okay, let's make that very clear. Medical cannabis is legal. And by the way, just Jeff, for your edification, the medical marijuana market is 2.5 times bigger than the recreational market. The difference is the recreational market is up and running, and there's a lot of people that are known there, and the medical marijuana market is just kind of, let's just say, unfolding. And I'll use seniors as an example. They're just finding out that it could become legal, but once they find out, they gravitate very quickly towards it. I think the question is going to become, when is it going to become legal? And I think you probably will be ready. Is that safe to say for us?
I would say we're going to be ready, right? So what we don't want to do is extend ourselves too much. So right now we're watching the market grow and we're trying to keep up with that demand, and we're adding grow as needed. We have had a lot of lessons learned in other states that we've worked in, where we set up a very large grow. And what happens is, and we're seeing it right now in Florida, they just released, I think it was a mid-20s, more license, black farmer license is what they were called. So
Right.
there is more competition coming on. And what we don't want to be caught in is a cycle where we have spent millions and millions of dollars to produce a ton of marijuana to meet the demand, and then they release 25 more license, or 5 years from now, maybe they allow as many licenses as you want, something like an Oklahoma setup, right? That's what happened in Oklahoma. They said,
Sure.
Free market, anybody can have these licenses. In Florida, we had 11 licenses. They just released another 23, I believe, of these black farmer licenses, and I expect more to come. So we don't want to get into a rut of oversupply, which will drive the market all the way down. We're seeing it happen in Canada right now. A lot of other mature markets, Colorado, California. I'm in Colorado right now. I live in Colorado. I'm seeing ounces of weed go for, it's mind-boggling. I saw ounces of weed going for $22 yesterday at the store. So that's what happens when there's an oversupply of cannabis, really. And it's great for the user, right? But a lot of companies will not be able to maintain with that. So we see this boom and bust, and we're trying to be run the longevity play here and just staged growth incrementally when we know that we can use that for our own stores. When a wholesale market opens up and people can start selling to everybody else, it's a totally different ball game. But right now we're trying to keep our growth under control so that we are strategic about what we're doing, and we will keep growing as needed.
It's interesting. The mentality of the recreation market is how much THC can I buy for the dollar? Okay. And in the medical market, it's a completely different buying pattern. You're looking at what product provides me the relief for my particular medical condition. And that's where ratioed products and things like that come into play. So it's really a different game that's being played in both sides. And I think Surterra has done a phenomenal job in the medical market to provide the ratio products, to provide the routes of administration, and to pay attention to upgrading the quality of the products, like with your Galileo introduction. So I think you're going to find that the companies that do a great job in the medical market are going to continue to grow and maintain that market share. I think it's going to be
that's what
when it
want.
comes to the recreational market, though.
Our patients, we know what foundation we built on, and the foundation was the medical cannabis space, right? So we're always going to have that as our backbone. As adult use or recreational use comes into play, we will give people what they want, but we're never going to forget who got us to where we were and who our real backbone is. So we're going to keep the medical patients high on our priority list and give them what they want.
And I've done some work and going to be doing some more work in rec states like Nevada, California, and other spots. There is a huge thirst to learn the educational part of it, because if you have a medical condition in a rec state, the question is what products to buy, and it falls back to the same formula we use here in Florida. What's the terpenes? Where you find them? What's the ratio? So it'll come into play. I think it's going to be interesting over the next couple of years, because I think the medical marijuana dispensaries are going to do very well. I think the rec is going to be a complete dogfight. So we'll see how that works out. So let's wrap up this webinar. We've been at this for a while. I do want to point out, if you're looking to get a medical marijuana card, please go to Medical Marijuana Treatments Clinic of Florida. As I mentioned earlier, they do have various discounts. They're located in 25 locations and can help you quite a bit. They also are available in Mississippi. I'll be doing a seminar in Mississippi on the 20th in Oxford and on the 24th in Biloxi. And then we're also going to be going to Georgia as well as Alabama in the next couple months, or next quarter, I should say. I do want to recommend, if you're looking at cannabis products, Surterra Wellness. I've been a fan of Surterra Wellness from the beginning. And I think that as far as my daily regime, I can shop at almost any dispensary I want, and I use a lot of Surterra products because of not only the quality, the ratios, but the consistency of what's out there. Then I do want to point out that if you're looking for just the pure CBD products, which really aren't covered by Surterra Wellness, the My Botanical Wellness site will help you out there. We pulled together some doctors that look at doctor recommended CBD products to keep the junk off the market and give you the quality and the testing that you find in the medical marijuana market and the CBD market. But those are some of the resources that are available to everyone that's out there. I want to wrap this up, and I think what I want to do initially is, Forrest, Isaac, and David, give me your thoughts.
I've been talking a lot. I'll let these guys talk for a second.
Well, I'll jump in. So definitely get out there and check out Galileo. One thing that Isaac mentioned in the video that I just wanted to bring back up, there is live bubble hash, there is live rosin, and there is live rosin carts in our stores right now that are under the Float brand. And so as Isaac had said in the video, this is not the same thing, just repackaged. The Galileo is made from premium. It has these different processes and whatnot. So if you're out shopping and you do happen to see live rosin or even a cart that we said wasn't available, that is the old version of them that you're seeing out there. So definitely get out there and check out Galileo and know that it's a completely different product.
Right. Well, it's an upgrade. And look, those products are great products. I've used them for years, and I really stand by them. I think I like it when you have an upgrade. So we'll see how that all works out. And like I said, Isaac, you threw down the gauntlet, so I'm definitely going to let you know. I got my little puff. I got my little Puffco today. See, I invested in it. I got it here.
I'm interested to hear. I'm interested to hear, Mark, what you think of it. And David Battaglia has been the one really leading a lot of the R&D down in Florida to get us these higher grade products. So Thank you, David, for getting this. And Galileo, it is our highest grade brand that we're going to come out with. I look forward to adding more products to it, but do know that I'm not going to allow anything in there that is subpar. The new strategy that I have our company working behind is call a spade a spade. If it's mids, let's call it mids and sell it at mid prices. If it's premium, let's call it premium and sell it at premium prices. Sure. And really that's the strategy. Is we're not trying to, sell people on stuff that they don't need. We're not trying to call something that it's not. And Galileo is encompassing all of that. It is the best that we can make, and we stand behind it.
Yeah. But let me back up just for a second. The reason that you want to go use those products of Galileo is because I believe concentrates are easier to use. I believe they're from a bang for the buck. If you're worried about the cost of medical cannabis, concentrates are a great way to go. And I think you can also control how much is out there. And products like Galileo, where you're using less product, really makes a big difference. So, there's a reason why concentrates are there. I discovered them late on. Like I said, I had an auto accident years ago, and it took me about a year and a half to find out what concentrates were. But I've been a fan of them ever since. And I think it's not necessarily somebody gets into initially, or something somebody gets into initially, but once you get into it, you'll find it's the bang for the buck is really there.
Yeah,
really.
And I think you just have to, you can dabble your toes in it with the vapes. Right. And then work your way into the concentrates. But really, it's all the good without any of the bad. And we're trying to make it the form factor work for, discreetness and usability. And that's what I see the future going towards, as more and more concentrates, just because, the life cycle on it is longer. You can keep it preserved longer. Right. The discreetness, everything. You can sit on the beach. You don't have to have a lighter, any of that jazz, right?
There you go. So David and Forrest, your thoughts?
I'm excited for Galileo. Super excited for all the new products coming out. I hope that you guys learned a lot. I hope you get yourself a vaporizer and go and try some of those products. And like Isaac said, start off with a vape. I think with these Galileo products, you're going to notice a huge increase in flavor, and you're gonna love the experience overall. Yeah.
Great. Forrest, your thoughts?
No, nothing further. Just get out there and try it. It's good stuff.
Yeah, well, more importantly, give us your feedback. I challenge everybody. I stand behind them. So if you have any feedback, good or bad, please let the store know, and they will get it to me. And I take every bit of feedback seriously.
And that'll come back to me, and we'll fix it all.
One last question that came up. Cheryl was asking about doctors in Georgia. Cheryl, we will send you a list of doctors. We're opening up in Georgia MMTC of Georgia. It'll be called True Leaf MD. So we'll send you that information so you can sign up for that. I want to point out, Forrest, next week we're going to be talking about another great product, some new products from edibles. And so we're going to be heading into that direction. So please join us next week for the webinar. I know edibles is always a controversial subject. They're great. They're fantastic, but they take a while to work. So my thoughts are be very, very careful. Be very careful when you're playing with concentrates. I know that they are really great, but boy, if you don't pay attention to the fact it takes probably a half hour to up to 2 hours to work, they can cause some issues. So we're talking about edibles next week. I think you got a great product line. I think you're already selling them today. Is the Wana product line available today for us?
Yeah, we launched the Wana product line last week, actually. So
okay,
we're currently the only dispensary in Florida where you can get Wana.
Mm-hmm.
Very high quality stuff. So we have 4 new SKUs that just came out last week, and we've got a 5th one that's going to be here pretty quick too.
And they're delicious.
Yeah,
and they have their regional products too.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can have a bag full of sales and discounts this weekend on Galileo and other products. So pay attention to that. And
yeah,
so
710 coming up on Monday. So definitely pay attention to that.
And a lot of your listeners may not know what 710 is. 710 is the concentrate holiday for cannabis use, right? So they use 710 July 10th because if you flip it upside down, it spells out oil. So they made a holiday out of it. It's a little bit gimmicky, but we are going to be offering specials on our Galileo products starting this Friday, moving through 710.
Fantastic. Well, that's great. Well, listen, I want to thank everybody for hanging in there. I know it's been a long web seminar or webinar, and thank you very much. Without the viewers, without the patients, this wouldn't be there. And my whole goal is very simple. If just one person can get their life back, if they can improve just one person's lifestyle by watching this, then we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. And hopefully we can get more than that. Please give us your feedback, and please join us next week for edibles. And more importantly, check out our YouTube channel, Marijuana Aware. There's a number of videos out there that can help you with various medical marijuana conditions and how medical marijuana can help, and more importantly, help in the educational process. So, Surterra, thank you very much. Gentlemen, you've been as professional as I expected you to be. More importantly, let's try these products and let's get some good feedback. So thank you very much. And everybody have a great weekend.